Okay, there's like 40 seconds to 12, so I'm just gonna ramble for a second and give people a bit of a chance to actually, I don't know, turn up, I guess. I can see a bunch of people there already, so hi. I'm gonna start by saying that I have got my office chair on a tiled floor, which is unusual, so if I suddenly disappear at pace off screen, that's probably what's happened. Just bear with me and I'll be right back. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for turning up to my January How to Get More Shit Done webinar. I'm going to share with you the 4 steps to actually doing what you set out to do. Now, before I get started, just a couple of housekeeping things. I'm obviously recording this, so I'm going to make a replay available at a later time because I know that not everybody can make lunchtime on a Wednesday. If you can't hear me, can you type a note into the chat button, please? There's like a little chat box. I'm just gonna open Zoom up again and just check. I'm gonna open the chat box. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody can hear me. I'm gonna keep that open, and if anyone can't hear me at any time or anything goes horribly wrong, just let me know. Right then, how do I share my screen again? Oh, thanks, Lorena. Yeah, that's a very good point. How are you going to know if if you can't hear me? Thank you very much, Lorena. That's a very good point. Okay, so we have. Let me just sort this out. We have a whole bunch of people. I'm going to take questions at the end. So I am right now just going to try and get rid of this little window here. Move that out of the way. And we're going to go through what basically I'm going to share with you what I've been doing over the last few weeks and what I've been planning on doing over the last few weeks, because it's been really exciting. So, hi, I'm Vicky Fraser. I am a small business ass kicker. I am an author, and I am, as you might be able to tell from that picture, a big lover of gin. I also ran away with the circus, and Joe, my husband, calls me Distractovix because I am an Olympic level procrastinator. And I can give you an example of that. We'll be working in the garden and I will get halfway through a job and then I'll be like, oh, let's do this other thing. And before you know it, I've got 3 things on the go. None of them are getting done. And Joe has just given up and is drinking a beer on the lawn. So that's what we're dealing with here. Also with the whole, I've got a bazillion ideas of things to do and I want to do them all right now. Obviously, that's a little bit of a problem because we can't really do a whole bunch of stuff at once. So I've been working really hard on my productivity and all the stuff that I want to get done. And I've been really thinking about why last year was frustrating for me and why I struggled to get, I got a lot done, but just nothing like the results that I wanted to get and I hoped to get. So over the Christmas period, I had a good, long, hard look at myself and my life and really had to think about, what I could do to fix this. And so we're going to get ready for a change. There's going to be no getting up at 5 a.m. in misery. There's going to be no 14-hour exhausting days. There are going to be no kale smoothies and dust sandwiches for those of you who think that somehow that is, a prerequisite for getting stuff done. You don't need superpowers. And I'm also going to offer you something at the end because, I'm a marketer. But I just kind of wanted to make it clear that all of the stuff that I'm going to share with you, I have not been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I have not been making myself miserable. And I hope you can see by my face, if you can see my face, that I am not completely exhausted. So, we'll see how this goes, but you don't have to be miserable to get all of this stuff done. I wanted to cover, why we plan like champions but struggle to actually get stuff done, because I know that this is a big problem for business owners and entrepreneurs everywhere. It's a big problem for, I think, human beings. We make all these big plans and we struggle to get anything, really done, or we struggle to get all of the things done that we want to do. So that's what we're going to look at. With even people like Elon Musk, whose face we are staring at right now, and Richard Branson, and, all those people, they have exactly the same amount of time. They have exactly the same amount of time in every day as we do. They just use it differently. And as far as I know, none of them have any superpowers, although I'm not sure about Elon Musk. So, that remains to be seen. The reason that we struggle so much to get stuff done is that we have 2 selves. If you've read the 12-week year, you will recognize some of this stuff because I'm a big fan of it, and that's what we're going to be working to today. And I can't actually remember if they talk about the two selves thing, but this is an idea that I've come across elsewhere, and it's something that I think about a lot because it's true. I think actually we have a lot more than two selves, but let's break them down into two for now. You've got your now self, the person who is living, right in the now, and you've got your future self, the person who makes all these big plans and wants to get a lot of cool stuff done. Your future self is full of plans and goals and good intentions. That's the one that says, I'm going to run a marathon this year. This is the year that I'm going to do the London Marathon in under 4 hours. And it's the one that says, I'm going to get the splits this year. That's one of my goals. And it's the one that says, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to start a new business and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. It's just gets very excited about this stuff, and that part of you is that's the cool ideas person, that's the entrepreneur talking, that's the business owner, that's that's the reason why you started your business. But your future self, exciting and wonderful and full of good intentions though it is, has to contend with your now self, which is a selfish toddler with no impulse control. Your now self is the person who wakes up in the morning. Your future self will go to bed thinking, I'm going to do all this cool stuff tomorrow. Your now self wakes up in the morning and is just like, you know what, my bed's really cozy and I'm a little bit tired and I don't want to get up and go running or, write my daily email or do whatever it is that I have to do. And it's the part of you that says, you know what, I'm just going to eat that other cake when you're trying to lose weight, or I'm just going to, Netflix on the sofa when, you should be going out and doing your exercise class or whatever. That's the conflict. You've got these two selves. There's the one that has all the plans and wants to do stuff, and there's the other self that kind of doesn't really give a shit because basically it just wants to sit on the sofa and eat cake. And that's one of the big reasons why we fail. There is, because we don't understand that. There are a few other reasons as well. And, Derek the donkey is beautifully demonstrating here, that hard work may pay off eventually, but laziness always pays off now. And I can give you an example of that with savings and things. We all know it's a good idea to save for the future, to get a pension in place. But frankly, I don't know the 80-year-old woman who's going to benefit from that stuff. That person is a stranger. That person is, years away in the future. And the me now would much rather spend that money on new shoes. And that's kind of what we're up against. We want instant gratification, basically, and making these big plans and working towards them doesn't provide us with instant gratification. It's all work right now without any immediate reward, which is why eating a cake is so much more fun than going out for a run. And we don't want to sacrifice immediate comfort either for something that's way off in the future. We want the new shoes now. We want the new outfit. We want to go on holiday. We don't want to be saving for some stranger living in a care home in 50 years' time. That's not the way our brains work. We have no tight focus. So like I said earlier, we all want to do a million things at once. That's part and parcel of being a business owner and entrepreneur. We have all of these ideas and then we try and do them all at once. And I am terrible for that. I always have been. It's like, I'm going to do these 53 things. I wasn't kidding a few weeks ago, for those of you who pay attention to my emails, when I said I was writing 5 books at once. I kind of still am, but I've spread them out a bit now because I realized that that just was not feasible. And we get overwhelmed as well. So when, we get overwhelmed partly by the fact that we haven't got a tight focus and we're trying to do 53 things at once, but we also get really overwhelmed when we have these big goals. Like, I'm going to write a book. That's massive. Or I'm going to run a marathon. Hello, that's, running constantly for 26 miles. That's fairly horrifying and it's quite overwhelming. And in the face of that, we tend to just do that kind of pull the blanket over your head thing and hide because it's a lot less scary. These massive unreachable goals that we set ourselves, that's why we fail. And also annual planning is a crap way to get stuff done as well. So you're like, this year I'm going to run the marathon, or this year, by the end of this year, I'm going to have done this, that, and the other. This is something that you'll recognize if you've been listening to or paying attention to the 12-week year. If you're in my Bookaholics Anonymous group, that's the one that we read in January, and it's an excellent book. And they talk quite a lot about why annual planning is such a crap way to get things done. And I'm just going to kind of summarize a couple of the reasons why now. A year is a hell of a long time. So if you set yourself, this is why I hate New Year's resolutions. It's like, this year I'm going to do X, Y, Z. You've got until December. That's 12 months to get something done. That's a long time. So January goes by and you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't achieved much, but it's okay because it's only January. It's only February. I've got another 11 months to go. Before you know it, it's September. You've done naff all and you're like, holy shit, I've achieved nothing so far this year. And you're not going to achieve any, you might get a bunch of stuff done, or more likely, you're just going to go, you know what, I have not got enough time to do that thing now, so I'm just going to abandon it, I'll do it next year. And that is why we fail. That's why annual planning is a crap way to get stuff done. It's also, it's really difficult to plan for that far ahead. A million things could happen over that, over that planning period. A million things could happen to derail your plans. You don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time. Definitely not in a year's time. So this is why I'm going to introduce you to the 12-week year today, if you don't know about it already. I also want to talk a little bit about motivation versus intention as well. Bear with me 1 moment. Also have to note something down. I read a really interesting article by a chap called James Clear not so long ago, and he talked about this. This is something that I've been thinking about quite a lot anyway, and I've studied a little bit before as well. We are all motivated. We all want what we want. We don't really need more motivation. It's like, people who want to lose weight are motivated to lose weight. People who want to run a marathon are motivated to do so, either for charity or because it's like a big thing that they want to do. People who want to write a book are motivated to do so for a variety of reasons, either because it's a thing that, you can feel proud of, or it's something that's going to help you grow your business, which it will, by the way, and you should write a book. Or, for whatever reason, we are motivated, a lot of us. We don't need more motivation. What we need to do is to make a plan and put it into action. Because this is the old idea of, an idea without action is just a pipe dream. It's nothing's going to happen unless you make it happen. And having these really big, unreachable, or not even unreachable, having these really big kind of shining goals at the top of a hill, they're too big on their own, and it's you just don't know where to start. So I'm going to introduce you to some of the tools that I use to get stuff done. The self-journal is possibly my favourite thing in the entire business world. I love it. I take it everywhere with me. It's sitting in front of me right now as my little comfort blanket. This is the thing that I use every day. It's just great. I really recommend that you have a look at it. I was going to make my own version, and I still might at some point, because there's a couple of things that I might do differently, but it works really brilliantly. So I would really recommend that you have a look at it and consider it. You can sign up and they'll send you one every 3 months, which is really useful. So that's the thing that I'm going to be basing, the self-journal is the thing that I'm going to be basing a lot of what I'm talking about today on. Excuse me. And yeah, let's just dive into it really. The 4 steps to getting more stuff done. That's what I'm going to cover. It is your vision, your actions. It's your vision, your actions, and measuring, and then rewards and whatnot. So I'm just going to go through all of those one by one. Your vision. This is really, really super important. What do you want? This is the thing that you need to do before you even sit down and start doing anything else. Because one of the biggest problems that I've found with people trying to do stuff is that quite often they'll be like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to, start this product. I'm going to create this product. I'm going to do this thing. And I don't really know why. I'm going to do it because I've been told to do it by somebody, by some internet marketing guru, or by a mentor, or by somebody else. But you don't really know why. And I've been guilty of doing this myself. It's just, you're like, this is what I should be doing. This is what I'm going to work on. It's not really linked to anything emotionally compelling. And the problem with that is that if it's not linked to anything that means something to you deeply, you are going to really struggle to overcome the desire to do the comfortable thing rather than, the work. So the first thing you need to do, and I want you to really start thinking about this now, is think about what you want out of life. And I'm not talking about necessarily, the Bill Gates kind of vision of curing malaria, Elon Musk's massive vision of putting somebody on Mars, which is frankly awesome. It doesn't have to be something that massive and world-changing. Excuse me. It just has to be something that means something to you. Why do you want it? What goal are you moving towards? Why is it important to you? And think of this in long term, 3 to 5 years, and in 1 to 2 year terms as well. So, and I kind of want to clarify that, because I don't have really a massive shining goal. I would love to go to Mars. That would be awesome. But that's not my goal. I want to see somebody else do it. My long-term goal, and I can give you a few examples of this in a moment, is I would quite like to open a donkey sanctuary or possibly become a marine biologist. Haven't quite decided yet, because when I was at school I always wanted to be a marine biologist, and for whatever reason I never did it, so I might go back and do that. but you need a long-term goal. You need a shorter goal as well, a goal that's going to tide you over for the next 3 or 5 years. That's quite a lot easier to see than a longer-term goal. I mean, a longer-term goal might be a lifestyle that you want rather than a specific thing. And then you want a 1 or 2 year goal as well, something that you want to achieve in the next 1 or 2 years. All of these things should link in together. They should all mean something to you. It doesn't mean that they can't change, and they might well change over the years because people change, situations change, all the rest of it. But what you really do need is to have this long-term vision, this emotionally compelling vision. Most goals are not emotionally compelling, which I think is a big reason why most people never reach their goals. And I think that's a shame. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of the kind of long-term visions that you might have. Open a donkey sanctuary, as I just said, become a marine biologist. I quite like to take 3 months off a year. That's one of mine. In the next 5 to 10 years, I want to be taking 3 months off a year, much like Sean D'Souza does with his psychotactics company. And I want one of those years to be, going to a different country and working with elephants or building wells or, something like that. I also want to be traveling. I want to be able to travel anywhere, anytime. You might want to make sure that your kids don't have any university debts. You might want to pay off the mortgage. You might want to go into the property business. You might want to start a brand new business. That's the kind of long-term vision that I'm talking about, but you've really got to think about why you want to do it. So for me, the marine biologist thing would be, when I was a kid, that's what I always wanted to do. And I still think about it now, 30 odd years later. That's something that means a lot to me, and I've always been kind of a science studier. The 3 months off a year thing will allow me to spend more time traveling and seeing the places I've always wanted to see, because life is short and there's a lot of planets to see, and just a couple of weeks a year is not enough time to do it. So that for me is quite emotionally compelling. For other people, making sure that your kids don't have university debts, making sure that they have perhaps a more opportunities than you might have done growing up. That's really emotionally compelling. That's the kind of thing that I want you to tap into and really think about. 3 to 5 year visions. This for me, this is a really strong one because you can see actually the quite nice part of my house right now. I don't know if you can see me or just my screen. But we've bought a house that is very, very old. It's about 400 years old. It's fantastic. It also needs a hell of a lot of work doing. And the kitchen is it's just upsetting. It's an upsetting place to be. And I have this vision, and I can see it in my head, of my whole family, my mum and dad, my brother and his wife and his kids, and my Joe, obviously, all sitting around our big farmhouse table in our big cozy kitchen that we're going to build on the back of our house, out of oak, and it's just going to be wonderful. And it's something I can see in my head. It's something that means a lot to me. That's what I'm working towards. That's why I'm making the money. It's not just making the money is not enough. You need to be thinking about why you're making the money and what it means to you. One of my superheroes has said that his 3 to 5 year vision is sitting on a train and drawing a cartoon for a client on his way to somewhere new and exciting. That's really cool as well, because it's visual, it's specific. He knows what he's working towards, and it's a lifestyle rather than anything else. That's really cool. You might want to be, performing on stage with Cirque du Soleil. That ain't never going to happen for me, but it might for somebody else. It might be that I want to go and perform on a smaller stage in front of a smaller audience doing something a little bit smaller. So that's what I'm kind of thinking of with your 3 to 5 year vision, something that you can work towards in the medium term that links into what you feel about what you want your life to be. It's kind of about living intentionally. And then the 1 to 2 year vision. So, in the shorter term, I want to be working 4 days a week. I want to always be having weekends off. I pretty much do now, but I would like to be working 4 days a week. That would be quite nice, because then I can spend more time, doing horrific stretching exercises to try and get my splits, because that's fun. If you've got a family, it might be that, in the next year or two, you want to never miss bath time with your kids or dinner with your family, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, that's one of the big things that they feel guilty about. One of the big things that kind of digs in and bothers them is that they're worried that they are so busy that they're just missing out on all of this stuff that you can never get back. That's the kind of thing that you need to be focusing on when you're thinking about goals and making your plans, because that's what will keep you going on the days when you just really don't feel like it. Because, I remember reading something really cool. I can't remember in which book now. But you've heard of Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer. I guarantee you there were days when he didn't feel like getting into the swimming pool, but he did it anyway, and then he won like 30,000 Olympic golds or whatever it was. He didn't become great when he won the golds. He became great on the day that he decided that this is what he was going to do, and then put a plan in place to do it. And he put a plan in place in such a way that on those days when he didn't feel like doing the work and didn't feel like getting into the pool and doing the training, he had the habits and plans in place and the kind of safety structures to make sure that he could get in there and do it anyway, even if he didn't feel like it. And that's what I'm hoping to pass on to you. Not saying for a second that you're going to be, you know, the next Michael Phelps or whatever, but I would like you to be able to get a little bit more stuff done. So let's move on to step 2. Step 1 is really, really important. Don't scrimp on it. Really put some thought into it, and really, you know, spend half a day, spend a day on it. Talk to your partners, talk to your kids, talk to the people that share your life with you, and just make sure that all of these things that you want to achieve, all of these visions that you have align, because that can be another problem if you're kind of working at odds with each other. You want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So step 2, your 12-week goal. Why 12 weeks? Well, I've kind of touched on that already. A year is a very long time, and you know, you can't plan ahead that far, really. You don't really know what's going to happen, and it's not immediate enough. We're very immediate creatures. You know, we've evolved for, you know, where's my next meal coming from, and is that Russell in the hedge going to eat me? We're not. We didn't evolve in an environment that allowed us to plan for the future, but our brains now allow us to do so. And there's kind of that dichotomy between the two, I don't know, the evolved self and the world that we're living in right now. So 12 weeks is a much shorter space of time. You can get a lot done. It brings that deadline forward. I don't know about you, but for me, deadlines are incredibly motivating. I'm like, shit, I've got to get this thing done, and I've got like 5 hours to do it. I find that actually sometimes I do my best work when I've got a really tight deadline, and I'm like, I have to get this done in the next day. Even if I have to stay up all night, I'll quite often produce some of my best work, because I think that's the way a lot of human beings work. So the 12 weeks brings that annual deadline forward a whole big long way, and it puts it right front and center. And it's like, I can see 12 weeks in the future quite easily. It's not that far away. It's like the end of March. It's not a very long way. I can see where I want to be and what I want to be doing at that, you know, at that time. And it also allows you to fail as well. And that's really important, because if you get to the end of a year and you haven't achieved your goal, you're like, and I know I've been there before, and I'm like, another year has passed and I have still not achieved what I think I could have achieved, you know. And it's depressing and demotivating and shaming, and it's like, man, you know, it's a whole year past. You're not going to get that year back. With 12 weeks, you can set yourself a big goal that you might have previously set for a year, and you know what, if you don't quite hit it, that's okay, because there's another 12 weeks coming up. And you've only lost 12 weeks. You haven't lost an entire year. So that's a couple of reasons why I really, really like the 12-week year. You will get far more done. You'll get probably more done in 12 weeks than you would have done in a year. And that's genuinely what I have found. So do it, basically. You want to set your 12-week goal and make it small enough to do, but make it enough of a stretch to be actually worth it. You want to be stretching for it. Yeah, I would always rather just fall short of doing something great than managing to do with ease something that's a bit meh. So, you know, my 12-week goal at the moment is to write my next book. It is a bit of a stretch because I have so much other stuff going on as well, but it's going to be really worthwhile me doing it, and I'll talk a little bit about why later. So, you know, when you set your 12-week goal, make it reasonable, make it achievable, but, you know, make it so that you have to work for it as well. Make sure, this is so important, make sure that it is linked to your emotionally compelling vision of the future. I know that sounds a bit wanky and woo, but, you know, you have to be emotionally invested in what you're doing, because otherwise, A, what's the point? And B, you're just going to stay in bed when you should be getting up and doing stuff. So make sure that your 12-week goal is linked to your emotionally compelling vision of the future. What will it mean to you to achieve it as well? You know, specifically, what will doing this one goal mean to you to achieve it? And I can give you an example. Let me just, because I'm consulting my self-journal right now and the plans that I have made. So my 12-week goal is to write my book about being more interesting and get it published. It's going to position me as the person who can help you stand out, because this is what I'm really, really good at, is you know, helping people to find their USPs and be more fucking interesting, frankly. It'll give me a second book to sell and use as a lead generation and positioning tool. It will improve my self-esteem. It will improve my positioning as an expert on copywriting and standing out. It's just really cool to have a book with your name on it and your face on it arrive in boxes. And I remember just like squeeing with Joe when it arrived, and he just kind of looked at me and was like, oh my God, you're an author, that's ridiculous. And I was like, I know, right? So that's gonna be really exciting. So you have to have in mind what it's going to mean to you to achieve it, both immediately and in terms of your, you know, your vision of your future. This is really important as well. What's your reward going to be if you do achieve it? Because this is kind of going back to the screaming toddler thing. What are you going to get out of it immediately? The long-term goals are fine. You can kind of intellectually, you can think, yeah, this is going to be really good for my business. It's going to be really good for my health, whatever. But what are you going to do to reward yourself right now? So for me, me and Joe are going to go to Barcelona for the weekend to visit Harriet, who is my wonderful assistant. That's going to be my present for finishing my book and doing the other things that I said I was going to do. So set your 12-week goal. This is your step 2. Step 1 is your vision. Step 2 is your 12-week goal. Really important stuff. Oops. And I can show you how I've been doing it. The thing that I was just looking at and consulting. This is how the self-journal works, but you can just use a piece of paper. It really doesn't matter. You can see I've written down, what the result goal is. Write my BMFI book and publish it. All of the stuff. I've broken the progress goals down into write the first draft, edit and polish it, and then print and publish it. They're the 3 main components of writing a book, basically. I'd already done the research. And then my actions and tasks are based on those goals. It's basically write 1,000 words a day. That's not a lot of words when you're a writer. I'm a writer, And then, what are the other things I'm going to do based on the progress goals that I've got up there? And suddenly that massive write a book goal becomes, actually, you know what? I only have to write 1,000 words a day. That's not that many. For a writer, that's not that many. I should have no bloody trouble with this. And even for a non-writer, again, it's not that big a stretch. So this is how I use this. And then you've got you make a commitment, because it's really important to set intentions and make commitments. I've written down that I'm going to complete this goal, by March the 31st, 2018. And I've written down how it's going to improve my life and my business, what my reward is, and how I'm going to use the tools that I've chosen to achieve the goals, to take action every day. So I actually do take my self-journal to bed every day and fill it in first and last thing. I've got a wall planner, which I'll show you in a moment, to track my progress, and I'll talk about progress shortly. And I do review my vision daily as well, to remind myself why I'm doing it. So at the top of every page, I've got new kitchen in big capital letters, because every time I walk into and to be honest, I walk into my own kitchen a few times a day, and every time I walk in there, it's horrible. So that in itself is kind of an incentive to get on with it. There is also this section of the self-journal as well, so you can plan out your entire month in advance. I find this quite useful. I've blocked out the days that I know I'm not going to be able to do anything, so there's a couple of days there at the beginning of the month when I was in London. I'm going to Canada tomorrow, actually, for a few days, so I'm not expecting myself to get as much done, although I will find time to do some stuff. At the weekend, we're going to visit Joe's parents, and I've got my personal goals and stuff in there as well. And while we're on that subject, I am just going to say a couple of, just checking out the commenter. I'm just going to say a couple of words about the number of goals and the focus, because I talked about focus a few minutes ago. I used to have 4 or 5 goals when I used this self-journal. I had 4 or 5 business goals written down, and I rarely achieved any of them. I certainly didn't achieve all of them. I rarely achieved fully any of them, and it was very, very frustrating. So I've changed the way I do things. I only have 1 business goal now. My 1 business goal for this 12 weeks is to write my book. I've got a few little things that I'm doing in between that are less labor intensive, like one-offs, like I'm doing this webinar. I've got a couple of other things planned coming up. I've got client work on, but that's a separate thing, and I'll talk about that later as well. My personal goal, so I have 4 goals. I have a business goal, a personal goal, a fitness goal, and a dingle goal. So my personal goal is to do a pole competition, which is happening in April, so that kind of falls perfectly, which is horrifying. I'm horrified by the idea of doing that, because I've never done a competition before. I've been doing pole for 12 years now, and not only am I doing a competition, I'm doing an authentic competition, which means I don't get to be a clown. I have to actually be sexy, which is just very horrifying to me. So I'm doing that, but in the competition I want to do the splits. I can't do the splits. So one of the things I'm setting myself, as well as together with putting together my routine for the competition, is I need to be able to do the splits by the end of March, basically. So that's my fitness goal. My personal goal is to go on a date with Joe every week, and we want to see a bit more of our, not that we don't spend that much time together, but just kind of intentionally, and going and exploring our local area, because there's all sorts of cool stuff. It's like 1 day a week we're going to go and do something fun. And the dingle goal is, you know, renovate this bloody house, because we kind of didn't get as much done last year as we wanted to do. So I've set a goal for this 12 weeks for both of us to do as well. And that's working out quite well so far. On track for everything. So I have so much to do. This is kind of what happens. You know, I've got so much to do, and instead of doing it, you kind of go, I'm not going to do any of that stuff, and you hide in a cave, because that is the nature of humans. Being overwhelmed is, you know, one of the big problems of this goal setting and getting stuff done. Like I've just said, most business owners have too many things on the go. If you pick one of them, the most important one, and this is, you know, where it goes back to that vision that we were talking about in step 1, pick the most important one, the one that will take you closest to your vision, and focus on it to the exclusion of all else. And if you're wondering what that picture is, by the way, I was around at my friend's house, and one of her hens was so excited about a piece of toast that she, halfway through laying her egg, ran out and chased the toast, and that is exactly what she looked like. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, you know what? This is business owners. This is me. This is a couple of years ago now. I was like, this is me. I am running around with a half-laid business egg hanging out of me, because I have not finished the thing 1 that I'm doing before trying to do things 2, 3, and 4, which is when your brain explodes and you go and hide under a blanket. So this is the whole, you know, focus on set your vision, set your goal, focus on it to the exclusion of all else, and then go on to the next thing. So one of the questions that I'm sure I'll get, and that I get from my superheroes quite often, is, but, you know, how do I decide? How do I pick one thing? I want to do 2 or 3 things. That's the beauty of the 12-week year, is, you know what, you've got 4 big goals to do in a year. So, you know, most people don't have more than 4 or 5 big things that they want to do. Do one of them each 12 weeks, and suddenly you don't have to choose. You just have to choose which one comes first. And I would say that will depend on a bunch of things. It will depend on what's most emotionally compelling to you. It'll depend upon need as well. You know, if you need to bring some money in fast, then pick the goal that's going to enable you to bring money in fast. If you have, I don't know, a fitness goal that needs, if you're booked into a 10K run in 3 weeks, then that's the thing that you're gonna work on, because that's the thing that you need to do. So I don't think that you should be making decisions based purely on what's urgent, but it all needs to tie in together. So what deadline are you going to work with? You cannot move mountains in one go, so don't try. This goes back to the big, you know, having the big goal. You can't just step out of a house and run a marathon. You can't do it. You've got to train for it. I can't just bounce down into the splits without twanging my hamstrings horribly. I have to work up to it. You know, a little thing every day. I can't just bang a book out in a weekend. Well, I do know a couple of people that can do that. I can't do that. Most people can't do that. You have to break it down into steps. And so that takes me neatly on to stage 3, step 3, which is your critical actions. You have to actually get stuff done. That little cartoon is, you know, all about what happens when you just wait to be motivated, or you wait for inspiration to strike, or you've got this big idea and then that's enough and it's going to happen. Sorry, it's not. You need to make it happen. And as I said, where we fall down is having these big goals and simply not bloody knowing where to start. So you start by working backwards from your goal. You know, I've got a book to write. I'm going to use that because it's my goal. That's a big thing. It's like anywhere between 50 and 100,000 words. That's a lot of words. And then you've got to get the cover done. You've got to get it published. You've got to get it printed. There's a lot of shit to think about there. So don't think about it all at once. Don't try and do that. You work back. It's like, okay, so I would like it to be published and delivered by X date. That means that I have to send it to the printers by this date. It means I have to send the book to the proofreader by this date. It means I have to get the first draft written by this date. It means I have to get the cover designed by this date. So you know, by working backwards, you know how much time you've got to work with, and you know what you need to get done. And then once you've done that, you come to the writing part, which is, you know what, 1,000 words a day takes me to somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 words a week, because I often write more than 1,000 words. Once you get going, that's another thing. Once you get going, you find often that you carry on. Getting started is a big thing. So break it down, work backwards from your goal and break it down into bite-sized pieces. That's a prime way to kill procrastination. And I'm finding that this is working with everything that I'm doing at the moment, because one of my biggest problems was that I would come down from my bed, I would make a cup of tea, and I would write my daily email. Sometimes I would faff first, and then I would faff, because I'd be like, I've got this big thing to do. I could give you an example. I'm writing a book with a friend of mine. I was like, I need to write this book. I was like, I don't really know what to do. I'm just going to go and do this thing instead. and the book would never get written. The stuff that I needed to do would never get done because it was a big amorphous blob of, you know, stuff. But now I've got 1,000 words a day. It's like, that's like an hour, less than an hour, or the equivalent research or whatever. It's I can do that. It's not a big thing. So break it down into bite-sized pieces and it will kill procrastination dead. You'll still struggle sometimes. I had a bit of a day yesterday when, you know, it was a bit kind of, I was a little bit faffy, but I got all of the things done that I needed to get done. Plan everything week by week and day by day on paper. This is another really important thing because if it doesn't work on paper, I can promise you it's not going to work in real life. I think I've even said it in big letters there. You know, if you have to plan it out on paper, you have to use the time that you have available and, you know, make sure things fit. Because this is another problem that I used to have and I see people do all the time. They massively underestimate how long it's going to take to do something. I'm getting better at this now. Tracking your time using time tracking software or just a piece of paper to track how long you spend on stuff will really help you. It won't help you to kind of save time now, but it will help you to plan things in the future if you start tracking how long things are actually taking you. So here is my day, for example. So you can see that I've broken my day down. I'm going to just explain how and why. I've broken my day down into sections. So my day starts, in theory, at 7:30, and I spend the first half hour to an hour writing my daily email. Those of you on my list know I write an email every day, and drawing a cartoon to go with it. I then stick strategic block in, which is where I will write 1,000 words of my book. I'll then knock a little break in there, so usually 15 minutes, at which point I might go and do the laundry or pay a bill or something. And you can see on the right of that time blocking, I've got other little to-dos as well. So I've got, like, you know, clean out the chickens and that kind of thing. That's the stuff that I will do in my little breaks between, or I'll read a book or I'll chill out, you know. That's the stuff that I'll do in my 15-minute breaks between blocks, because one of the big mistakes I used to make was smash everything together with no breathing space. And, you know, at some point your brain's just going to go, you know what, screw you, I'm going to sit and I'm going to, you know, play computer games on my phone because I need to stop. So that's a top tip. But I've got that blocked, and then I've got a client block. So, you know, that's doing work for my superheroes, doing the critiques that they send me. And then really importantly, I've got a buffer block of half an hour. That's super important, and I will talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. Then got some more client stuff. I've got lunch booked in. I've got it all mapped out, is what I'm saying. And then, you know, on the right hand side is where I've got my, well, I don't think you can see at the top of that picture, but I've got new kitchen in massive letters. Underneath I've got my write my book, gable end wall of the dingle, and my pole comp and splits. That's what I'm working towards. Today's targets, I've only got 3 targets. Occasionally I have 4 targets, but I think 3 is plenty. I'm going to write 1,000 words in my book. I'm going to do a stretch and a bridge, and I'm going to do 2 critiques. And so, you know, you can see that I've, the other thing that I really like about the self-journal, and you're getting a bit of an insight into how my brain works. I'm wondering what else I've photographed. Once I'm up, I'm fine, even if I didn't sleep well. Remove phone from office. So that's possibly a day that I was a little bit distracted, and now I put my phone in an entirely different room. I'm just a phone addict. It's digital candy, as Gemma said. And then you can write down your wins as well. So don't forget to celebrate the stuff that you do achieve. You know, I did all my things. That's really cool. And I tell you what, it feels bloody brilliant. It feels so good to get the stuff done that you've written down and not feel exhausted and like you've overstretched for it. Stretch is fine, but not an overstretch. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit more. Time blocking is something they talk about in the 12-week year. I've got my own version of this. They say that you should have at least a 3-hour strategic block each week. I have at least 6 hours because I basically spend a little bit more time working on my business than perhaps some others do. That's my choice. But I think if you have at least 3 hours a week, and I've always said, you know, make the first hour of every day your own. Use that to work on your business rather than in it. So that's where I make that the first thing that I do as well, because I'll come to this again in a moment, but because I am my own most important customer. You know, you put your own life jacket on, your own oxygen mask on before you help other people. You're useless if you're not, you know, functioning well yourself. So a 3-hour strategic block each week. I have more. a 30-minute buffer block each day. Now, this is completely awesome. And this is something that I have only just recently started doing, and it has made such a massive difference to my day. And a buffer block is the time for dealing with all of that shit that pops up. It's a time for checking your emails, because at the end of this, I'm going to give you some top tips and yell at you all about, the bad habits that you have that destroy your day. But your 30-minute buffer block gives you time to check your emails, deal with anything that arises. For example, a couple of days ago, a few minutes before my buffer block, before I opened my emails, one of my clients sent an email through saying, could you just amend this little thing? So as soon as I got it, I was like, yeah, took me 2 seconds, did it, sent it back. She was like, bloody hell, that was quick. And it's like, well, it was the buffer block, I could do it. That's my unexpected or, unplanned stuff that comes up. That's when I deal with it. That's when I return phone calls. It's when I return emails. It's when I deal with stuff that I haven't otherwise planned into my day. I have at least one of those a day. I have one just before my lunch, and sometimes I have one just before I turn everything off and go out for the evening or stop for the evening as well. You'll know how long it takes you. You might need an hour's buffer block each day. That's fine, but make sure that you put it in there because you will need it. A 3-hour breakout block each month. In the 12-week year, they suggest that you start off by just having 3 hours a month where, during work time, not your lunch, not your breaks, but a specific time during when you would normally be working to say, you know what, I'm going to go and do something completely unrelated to work. For me, that's usually a private pole lesson in the daytime, or a private stretching session or something like that I will go and I'll go away and do the other thing that's important to me. I try to do something every week that takes me out of my office at the during working hours rather than later on. You'll find out what works for you. And building breaks as well. So you saw in my photo a few minutes ago that I had little gaps between each block that I put in. Those 15-minute blocks, partly because you need time for your brain to stop kind of thinking about the thing that you were just doing and switch to the next thing. Because I think they've done some research actually that says it takes 15 minutes for your brain to get back on track after you've switched tasks. Multitasking is a myth, and it will destroy your sanity. So building breaks, building 15 minutes. Once you've finished doing one thing, you've got time to have a 15-minute break because you'll get more done afterwards than you would get done in that 15 minutes. Go do something else. For me, it's like feeding the chickens or chasing the little buggers around the garden or whatever. Or I might do the laundry, or I might just sit and chill. Breaks are really, really important. Excuse me. I need a quick drink of water. And going back to this idea of you being your most important client, schedule in your own stuff first. Build it. And I've had this blazing row, not really a blazing row, with a friend and colleague of mine before, and he always used to put he thinks that he thinks best in the mornings, which he knows that best. So he always scheduled his clients in always first thing in the morning. And I used to row endlessly with him. It's like, you have to, and he never got anything done on his own business. Like, you have to schedule yourself first. Do your own stuff first. You are your most important client. You can't be at your best if your business is struggling. And if your business is struggling because you're not spending enough time in it, then schedule that first hour of every day just to work on your business. And I think we came to a compromise in the end. I was like, well, you know what, spend 3 days a week working, or 2 days a week working on your business first before you do client stuff, and 3 days a week putting your clients first. There's always a balance to be had, but you have to schedule in your own time as if it was client time, as if it can't be moved, because otherwise you won't do it. I think that's really, really important. And schedule in the things that can't be moved first as well. So if I've got client calls, if I've got coaching call with a client, then that will go into the planner. That's the first thing that goes in. If I've got a meeting, that will go in. If I've got a deadline, that will go in. And then I fit everything else in around it. That's really important as well. You plan it on paper so that you know that it works, and set rules. I'll come back to rules in a little bit, but don't just answer the phone when it rings. Don't just answer emails when they pop in, because and I know that people are going to be saying, oh, I've got no choice, I have to do this, that, and the other. You don't. I can think of very few situations where you have to answer the phone right now, where something is that much on fire that it can't wait. If you listen to this last week's podcast, I think, Joe was kind of arguing with me about that. But even then, there's a solution to be had. It's like, you can get a call answering service to, if something genuinely is on fire, they can put them straight through to you. So there are things that you can do. Set rules in your business and stick to them, because it's the only way you will get stuff done. think about what might stop you as well. You know, if somebody chucks a hand grenade into your business, what might stop you from carrying out your plan? List out your obstacles and the potential obstacles and write a plan for how you'll deal with it. So when I don't really run anymore because I think I was destroying my knees, but I used to run. I used to run half marathons. I used to run. I still love it. I found that I really struggled to get out in the daytime, and then, you know, it's just so much easier to not go. So what I started doing was, instead of having a shower first thing in the morning, I would get out of bed and get straight into my workout gear, and I'd work all morning, and then I'd go for a run at lunchtime, and my reward then would be a really nice hot shower when I got back at lunchtime. But the point was, I didn't have to go upstairs and get changed. I had really no excuse for going out. So list out your obstacles and potential obstacles. You know, what will you do about them? What's going to stop you from carrying out your plan? What's going to thwart you? What excuses are you going to use? Write them down. Write down what you're going to do about it, and then stick it up on the wall in front of you. Found that a really useful thing to do. And then step 4, you want to check. I went a bit white girl rap there, sorry. But you want to, you know, check what you're doing. That is a little snapshot of my results, basically. Well, not my results, my actions, because you can't control your results, only your actions. We spend a lot of time focusing really heavily on the end result that we're going to get. You can't really control that. You know, you're not going to get the result unless you do what needs to be done to get there. You can only control the actions that you take. And actually, when you kind of grok that, when you get that into your head, that's a really powerful truth to learn, because that puts you totally in control of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So remember that you can't control results, only actions. You still want to monitor your results, obviously, because if you're doing stuff, you know, over and over again and it's not getting you results, then you're going to have to look at whether or not it's working. But if you're not doing the things that you need to do to get the results, you can't possibly tell whether it's going to work or not. So by all means, keep an eye on results as they come, but you want to be focusing on the actions that you're taking. Use the Seinfeld strategy, which is pretty much what this is on here. He always said, if you've not heard of the Seinfeld strategy, Jerry Seinfeld is pretty much the world's highest paid comedian, or he was a few years ago. And he had a conversation with an or young comedian, and the young comedian was like, you know, how can I become successful? Have you got any advice for a young comedian? And Jerry Seinfeld said, just write a joke every day. It's pretty much all you have to do. Write the joke, write every day. Don't worry about whether it's a good joke or a bad joke, because the more you do, the better you'll get. It's a natural consequence of practicing. But his thing was, get yourself a big wall planner and put a cross on it every day you do the work, a big red cross. You will fairly quickly have a chain, much like the one that you can see on the screen right now, and you will not want to break that chain. And I can tell you that I do not want to break that chain. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is that small action every single day. And that's the thing that I think people really struggle with, is it's not sexy and it's not exciting. It's just doing the little things that need to be done every single day consistently. Commitment and consistency will get you results. Another thing that I've learned is you don't have to be perfect. Aim for 85%. If you do 85% of the things that you set out to do, you will massively increase the results you get. You will see an enormous change fairly quickly. You don't have to go for 100%, so do not beat yourself up if you don't make 100% of what you need to do. This is all about building habits and rewarding consistent actions. And I can tell you completely truthfully that seeing that chain of crosses, the red crosses, by the way, is my 1,000 words a day, and the dots are my stretching sessions. But I can tell you completely truthfully that is reward itself, because every time I put a cross on, I feel really, really smug about it. It's like, look what I've done today. I've done my thing that I needed to do again. And it's very, very cool. And take ownership of it as well. And this goes right back to step 1 on your vision. Because I think a lot of people think that accountability is being yelled at by a buddy or whatever. And, you know, that can help. If you say stuff out loud, if you tell people your intentions, then, you know, you're more likely to do them rather than just keep them in your head. But actually what's really going to hold you accountable, you're the only one who can hold you accountable ultimately. It's not like you're going to get fired if you don't do what you do. You know, if you don't do what you need to do, you have to take ownership of it yourself, and it has to mean something to you to be able to do it. And that's the real secret, I think, of all this. And review your progress honestly as well. So, you know, if you have a day where you don't do the thing that you needed to do, don't fill in the cross anyway, because it's pointless. It's like, you know what? That went wrong. That day went wrong. Why did it go wrong? What happened? Was I just completely exhausted? Because, you know, sometimes that happens. Was it just that I really didn't feel like it? In that case, where did my plan to overcome the can't be asked fall down? So it's kind of about you have to review your progress honestly. And if you do miss a day, for God's sake, don't give up. Because that's another thing that I find is that people are like, oh, you know what, I've had a really bad day training, therefore I'm not going to do this anymore. That's bullshit. It's like, it's one day. It's one day in a chain of, 15 days or however many days that you've done. One day is okay because you can get back on the horse the next day and carry on. So, don't use this as a tool to beat yourself up. Use it as a tool for, look at all these little steps that I've taken every day. It's okay if I miss one. I'm going to get back on the next day and put the cross back up there again. And then you're going to see that gap and be like, I don't want another gap like that. And it's going to spur you on to do better. So this is how I measure my progress, as well as that thing there. Sorry, my bullet points. As well as that wall planner. This is also how I make my progress. that was one of my cartoons for the day. You can see that was only week 1. But I've hit everything. In fact, I overhit one of them, I think. I was really, really pleased. I was really, really chuffed. If you'd seen my self-journals from last year, it would have been like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. I'm 60% okay with how my week's been. But yes, it's early days, and you know what? I might fall off the wagon, but I don't think I will, because I feel really good about this. This week has been brilliant as well. Even though I was away in London for 2 days, I still managed to get all of the things done that I wanted to do. And this is a really good exercise to do, is to kind of physically measure how many that you've got, so you can see all your ticks, have you met your goals? And then talk about how happy you were with the week and why. Talk about why you weren't happy, if you weren't happy, because that's really useful as well, because this is where you learn the stuff. It's like, okay, I failed on this one. Why did I fail on this one? What were your 3 big wins for the week? And then you can, pat yourself on the back or whatever. That's a really good thing to do as well, because we spend a lot of time beating ourselves up for what we don't do. We don't spend nearly enough time cheering ourselves for the stuff that we do. So think about, what wins that you've had. And also, compare it again to your big goal and your vision. Do you feel like you're spending the time on the right things? If not, how are you going to change that? Do you need to set a new goal? And, this early in the 12-week year, you can do that. If you're like, actually, I don't think this is the right thing to be doing for my long-term vision, change it. You've got another 11 weeks to sort it out. That is enough time. Maybe, one of the things that what was the biggest lesson you learned this week? For me, it was maybe leave a few more breaks. I'll reassess this next week. And it will be interesting because I'm going to be in Canada from tomorrow night. So I'm going to be interested to see what impact that has. But it's going to be really important for me to keep going with the tasks that I've set myself. And that's why it's so important to have small tasks, because, even if I'm busy, even if I've got fun things to do, I can always find an hour or half an hour to just do a bit of writing and a bit of stretching. Okay, so that was my 4 steps. Step 1 is set your emotionally compelling vision. Step 2 is set your 12-week goal. Step 3 is plan your actions, break things down into bite-sized pieces, and plan, really schedule your day with the time blocking. And step 4 is measure everything that you're doing, and then review it at the end of each week. Even at the end of each day, how's your day gone? Really, really important. I know I had a lot of questions about how to deal with the unexpected and how to deal with stuff that crops up. And so I've added a little extra section on about setting rules and setting yourself free. As you can see, Derek is, I don't know what he's doing. He's being a bit snary at the poor bloke in prison. Digital candy. Limit it. And, one of the people, actually, I think it was Gemma who called it digital candy. It's a great name for it. It's like that compulsion to check social media all the time, because I don't even know why. I don't even know why I do it. I think it's like fear of missing out, and it's just, I don't know, connection, whatever it is that drives you to do it. It's pointless to do it all the time, and it's a massive distraction. So do what you can to limit it. And I know that one of the people's questions was, well, how do I do that when part of my job is to look after people's social media? Time blocking is my answer to that. You don't need to be on like the full 8 hours out of the 8 hours. Nobody does. I don't care what your job is, unless you're a nurse or, okay, there are a few jobs, but I think all the people who are listening right now, there is no reason for you to be on all the time. That's insane. So, have your digital candy time, when you have to be on social media doing stuff for your clients, you've got 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. That's more than enough, really. And then you can schedule stuff. So I know that you shouldn't schedule everything. I'm not a social media expert, blah, blah, blah. But, you can schedule the other stuff and be there really in person for, a couple of hours in the morning, or an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. It's perfectly doable. And, you know, for anybody that says, no, it's not, I'm going to call you out and say, actually, I think that's an excuse. So limit it. And the way I limit it is I use the Freedom app, which allows me onto the internet, no, it allows me onto social media, so like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. It allows me there between, I think, 12 and 2, before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. And that works really well for me. You can set times up for whatever suits you. So, you know, if you want to specifically be able to go and do work on social media, then you can set the times for whatever. And you can put any website at all in their blocking list as well. It's not just social media. If there's, you know, if you're addicted to, my husband is thoroughly addicted to Mumsnet, which frankly is frightening because we don't have children and we have no plans to have children, and he's just addicted to the Mumsnet forums. I would block his Mumsnet access, frankly. So yeah, you can block that. Buffer zones are brilliant as well. Buffer zones are brilliant. I can't think of many jobs where you need to be able to answer the phone on tap and, you know, just pick up one of your client's brain farts. So somebody said, you know, what happens if the client calls unexpectedly? You don't answer it. You have your phone on silent in a different room, and you have a voicemail that says, I check my voicemails twice a day at, you know, 12 and 4, and I will get back to you then. I cannot think of a situation for most people where there's something so urgent that it has to be dealt with in the next 10 minutes. If you set these rules, your clients will learn to follow them. And if they don't, then stuff them. Do you want them as clients anyway? Because I sure as hell don't. So, you know, set your buffer zones. You check your email twice a day only, and you check your voicemail twice a day only. And if you're really worried about not answering the phone, get a call answering service. I was talking to my friend the other day, and he said that it's like £1.50 a call, or 50p a call or something. And, you know, they can take messages. They can completely sidestep any sales calls that you don't want to have. And any client calls, you know, they can assess. If you talk to them and train them, they will assess whether or not it's something that you need to deal with straight away. That's a really valuable thing to do. I'm not in a situation where I get a lot of calls, so I'm not fussed about that. But if I was, I would definitely be getting a call answering service. My husband uses a company called Miss Moneypenny. There are many others available. So, you know, if you're worried about that and you really want your clients to be able to talk to a human being, get a call answering service or a VA. Also, a VA can deal with your emails as well. You can have all of your emails go through an assistant, and she will just filter them. Get rid of any that aren't important. You can give her a list of, you know, if you're on people's email lists or whatever and you want to read, you can give her a list of people you want to get emails from, and then just ditch the rest, and she can kind of get in touch with you and, you know, tell you whether or not it's something that you need to deal with now. Put your phone in another room as well. That's a big thing for me. I found that actually such a simple thing to be really useful. I don't take it to bed anymore either. So I used to wake up in the morning and the alarm would go off on my phone, and I would sit in bed and just faff with it for half an hour, and it's a waste of time. Now I don't. It lives downstairs, and I take my self journal to bed and that's the first thing that I look at in the morning. I might read a book, which I think is also a valid use of time. So that's my rules, really. Replace the bad habits with good ones. You know, this stuff is addictive. It's I called it, you know, digital candy and crack cocaine, and this is what we do with it. Replace the bad habit with a good one. So, you know, every time you feel like reaching for Facebook, what can you replace it with that's more useful? Is there a book that you've been wanting to read for ages? Read a few pages of that book, and the craving will go. Cravings are really immediate for stuff like that, and it's, you know, anybody who's struggled with sugar addictions and things and drug addictions. Actually, I don't know that much about drug addictions, but, you know, certainly for most things, the cravings are fairly immediate. And if you just do something else and distract yourself, it will ease off and you can, you know, carry on with your day. So replace the bad habit with a good one. By the way, in my book club, Bookaholics Anonymous, we're going to be reading The Power of Habit in a month or so. So if you want to know more about my book club, let me know. So yeah, pretty much getting to the end. I am so far from perfect, it's ridiculous. And, you know, this is not about getting up at 5 a.m. and drowning yourself in misery and, you know, looking at what other people are doing and comparing yourself and thinking, you know, this is something that I should be doing. It's about being as good as you can be and putting plans in place to deal with this stuff that crops up. So what is your plan? What's your emotionally compelling vision of the future? Set your 12-week goal that ties into that. It has to tie into that. Break your 12-week goal down into daily and weekly critical actions and block out your time. That's so important. Measure your actions and review your progress. And, you know, join a group that will have you back as well. I find it so helpful to be part of a group of people that are working towards the same thing, that will elevate me to do better and be better than I am already. It's just such a powerful thing. And you can join my group if you like. Business for Superheroes. in a circle. You will get a 30-minute Borrow My Brain session to kickstart your plans and goals for free as a bonus for joining. You get a supportive group of people who are actually doing stuff and not just talking about it. You get a forum for goal tracking and accountability that I've just set up and is so far working wonderfully. You get regular critiques of any marketing material you feel like sending to me. You get a monthly Q&A call where you can ask me anything and we'll deal with different topics. You get a monthly newsletter on a specific topic and monthly challenges so that you can actually put into action what you're learning. So if you'd like to be part of that kind of group and, you know, really kickstart this stuff that I've given you today and really get moving on stuff and start achieving stuff, then I would love to have you in the group. So you can join us if you would like. That's my little pitch. Okay, any questions about anything at all? I'm very happy to take any questions. I'm just gonna go back into Zoom. Don't know if I can stop sharing. I've had a few. Yeah, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, type it into the chat box. Thank you, Sue. You're welcome, Lorena. So we've got a whole bunch of really cool people on this call. If anyone has any questions at all, type it into the chat box and I will answer it here. Oh, okay, Carol. Dealing with the just don't want to do it days when you just can't get yourself going. Okay, so that's when it's really, really important to have that emotionally compelling vision and, you know, putting a plan in place. So what are you going to do? So for me, it was you can't get yourself going. For me, it was with the running thing. It was I'm going to put my running gear on before I leave my bedroom. And it's like, oh, I'm already wearing my running gear. I haven't had a shower yet, so I already smell bad. So I might as well, you know, go out and run. That's how I always dealt with the don't want to do it days. And if it's just one day out of like 20, you know what? Just have a duvet day because you need a break. And it might well be your body's, if you really can't get going, it might well be your body and mind's way of saying, you know, I just want to have a little bit of a chill out. And there's nothing wrong with that. So don't beat yourself up if it's only if it starts being, you know, once a week or whatever that you really can't get into it. So I hope that's kind of helped a little bit, Carol. It's really about finding out what will get you shifted, what will get you moving, and the stuff that you can put in place to deal with it. Abby, hi. Lisa, you're so welcome. Lisa and Kim, thank you. Thank you for coming. Abby says, hello, I have the self-journal and love it, but I don't want to write in it yet because I'm scared of it. You're so funny. How do you use the section with the whole month and the boxes? Is it like a wall chart? Yeah, you know what? I struggled with that for ages because I've been using the self-journal for a long time and I was like, I don't know what this bit's for. It's stupid. I'm not going to do it. And I don't know if you maybe popped in a little bit late, but this is how I've used it. So I've blocked out the days where I absolutely definitely can't do anything. So the days when I was in London, the days when I'm away. And the rest of it is blank. So yeah, it's kind of like ticking off. It's a bit like the wall chart and it's a bit like kind of blocking it out. But also, you know what, with the whole you don't want to ruin the book. That's so funny because that's so how I feel about new notebooks. Get yourself. I've always got two not on the go, but I've always got my next one ready to go. So it's like it's only 15 quid. If you ruin it, you can just buy another one. It's not that big deal. And work on your handwriting. Maybe, I don't know. Sue, you are so welcome. My issue, as Sue says, as you know, are the rugrats. I always seem to be running out of time on things. I can't wake up any earlier than I am currently. Okay, so this is what I was talking to Joe about the other day, and this is what I suggested with him because he has the equivalent of children to deal with it, his work. I'm not even kidding about this. And they always interrupt him with stuff. You know, I want to do this, I want to do that, I need your help with this, that, and the other. And I've said to him, make a note of every time that you're interrupted or everything that kind of interrupts your day. And just think about how you can change one thing. Pick one thing from that list of interruptions and things and think, can I change this? Is this a thing that I can change? And if so, how? Change that thing and then move on to the next thing. If it's something that you can't change, block it into your day as part of your plan. Block it into that plan and just treat it as another business task to do. If you're really finding that you haven't got enough time, then that would make me think maybe you've set too many goals. Maybe because that's one of the things that I noticed with one of my superheroes was I actually said to him, are you sure that you're going to be able to get these, because they look like 3 quite big goals, business goals, are you sure you're going to be able to get them done? And he went back and had a look and came to the conclusion that yes, he probably could. But if you really find that you're struggling and really running out of time on everything. How many goals are you working on really? Because if it's more than one big goal for this 12 weeks, then, go right back to what I said earlier and be like, yes, this is I've got too much stuff on. So I hope that's helped a little bit. And we can talk about that. Sue's in my superheroes, so we can talk about that, and I can help her out with that stuff. Roy says, thanks, Vicky. You're most welcome. Will the recording of this be available? I'm going to make a replay available once. And for people in my superheroes, they will get lifetime access to it because they are my superheroes. So you'll get another replay of it for sure. I might make it available as a product, possibly. I don't know. I'll think about it. Carol says, I know what Abby means, that you always have to write very beautifully. Sue's just ordered a self-journal. Awesome. Oh, good. Abby's just written the date. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You're most welcome. Louise says, hi, the writing everything down thing really works. I started that recently and I've been reassessing my day. I've been more productive and put all the small jobs to one side and to do in a chunk. Great stuff, Vicky. Oh, thanks, Louise. You are most welcome, Louise, and well done. I'm really chuffed that you are doing that. Carol says, I think my biggest issue with my personal goal to lose weight is I just don't have that emotionally compelling vision, and the short-term biscuit or chocolate is too alluring. Tried breaking it down into one day at a time, but still struggling with that one. Also, it does still feel like an... Okay, so then I would say, okay, do you have a party to go to or a date to go on or a dress that you would like to fit into? I know that some people say, I'm going to buy myself a dress in the size that I would like to be, and then it hangs in the wardrobe, or not even in the wardrobe, but kind of up as a piece of art, not as a piece of art, but hangs up on the wall where you can see it. It's like, that's my goal. That's what I want to be able to fit into. That might work for you. Or to have something, I specifically want to lose weight for this specific thing. So I don't know, maybe if you're giving a presentation, maybe if you've got a big event on, try and tie it into something, maybe even that links with your long-term vision. Try and think about it that way. Catherine says, rugrats are easier to deal with than demanding elders, which have scuppered our planning days. I would treat them in exactly the same way. Family, make them wait unless it's something, unless it's something that literally is on fire. Make them wait a little bit. My family never ring me outside of lunchtime or after work because they know that I simply won't pick the damn phone up. And I know that if they do ring outside of that time, then something probably is on fire. So train people. People can be trained. Train them. You are so welcome, Sue. I love you too. Sue's completely awesome. Brenda says, hi, Brenda. Thanks, Vicky. It's helpful on a personal and work level. Shall we? Yes, we should start a splits group. Brenda, by the way, is one of my poll buddies, and she's completely awesome. Tanya says, how would you deal with a client who is constantly pinging over small requests, amendments, etc., as he thinks of them, so it's a daily thing? Even if I don't deal with them in real time, I find it distracting and takes up mental space. Okay, so turn off all of the things that ping at you for a start, and just tell him, sit down with him and say, I'm changing the way I'm working. And you can couch this in more value for him as well, because you can't concentrate on the stuff that he's giving you if he's constantly interrupting you, and he knows that on some level as well. And I think this is also a control thing. Clients like to feel like they're in control. So just say, I'm going to be checking my emails between, at 12 o'clock and at 4 o'clock every day, and that's when I will deal with everything. So say to him, get him to write everything down on a piece of paper, and then send you one email with all the stuff that he wants changing. But simply refuse to deal with it. Turn off the things that ping at you, because there are no reasons for things to be pinging at you in the daytime at all. Turn them all off and don't let them distract you. So even if my phone's in a different room, I make sure it's on silent so that I can't hear an email arrive, because as soon as I hear that bing, it's like fucking crack. It's like I need to go and look at what that is. Maybe it's really interesting. Morag says, I use a passion planner right now, which works well and is similar, but it has the whole year. Trying to implement 12-week year and not sure if it's worth. You can use them both together. I would be wary of things that plan for a whole year for all of the reasons that I said earlier. So I would give a 12-week journal of it. It's 15 quid. Order one. See if it works for you. You might be able to use them together. They might work very well together. There you go, Carol. Niece's wedding on the 10th of March. Perfect. There you go. Chris says, thanks. You are very welcome. Louise, I've thought of a question. If there are tasks on your daily 12-week year list that you don't get done, do you roll them over to the next day? Yes. I mean, I have little to-dos that I definitely roll. So there's like 2 things that I didn't do yesterday that I need to either do. They're not like massively urgent, so that's why I can roll them over, and they're never going to be urgent. Yes, roll them over, but make sure that you plan that into your next day. So don't just add it on to the next day, because otherwise you're going to have an unmanageable list of shit to deal with that's just going to get bigger and bigger. And that's when you're going to struggle to manage the overwhelm. So I hope that helps. So yes, I mean, on the odd occasion, and also if you do that, if you're rolling a task over to the next day, really look at why you struggle to get it done as well, because that's the key, is kind of not just adding it on to make it another thing to do the next day. It's like, okay, well, why have I had to add this on? What went wrong with today that means that I'm now struggling, to get this thing done? Does that help? Brenda says, yay. Was that for good yay? Jane says, thanks, Vicky. It's been super helpful. I want to join your superheroes and dress up in spandex. Jane, that would be completely awesome. Where do I get the self-help journal and come do poll in my burlesque? I would love to come and do some poll in your burlesque. You know what? I'm going to do the competition, and then I'll come and do it at your burlesque show for sure. Oh my god, I've just said that in public, so now I have to do it. So yeah, the self journal is, oh man, is it bestself.co.uk? Hang on a second. Best self journal. Bear with me 1 second. It's bestself.co. Really easy to remember. Bestself.co. Tanya says, thank you. The Facebook messages from him on Christmas Eve nearly resulted in him being sacked. Oh, yeah, sack him. That's unacceptable. I would stop taking messages on Facebook. Or I've actually silenced my Facebook Messenger, so I have to actually physically go in to find out if there are any messages there. So you can do that in the settings. I would do that if I were you. Abby says, I'm struggling to think of goals. I have a few short-term goals and I have long-term goals, 3 months off a year, starting a business, etc. But I'm struggling with the 3 to 5 year goals. I feel like I have a big block with this and it makes me feel so uninjured. Abby, I have to say here, Abby has spent the last year going around the world. I suspect you're having a bit of a hangover from being around the world and being like a solo female traveller, and now you're like, I'm back home again. Does not make you uninteresting. I think you're one of the coolest women I know, frankly. So I wouldn't, if you haven't got a 3 to 5 year goal, yeah, that's fine. If you've got a short-term goal and a long-term goal, stick with those for now. Something else will crop up. Think about the things that, that really give you energy, that you love. Think about those things, and yeah, start from there. And, keep doing what you're doing. You're super exciting. Karen says, thank you, Vicky, you're welcome. The overwhelm resonates with me too. I'll start by revisiting my vision and emotionally compelling why and writing everything down. The planner looks good, we'll order it. I think my main issue is too many goals, so yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna start asking for commission from Best Self, I think. Thank you for that link, Abby. Morag's laughing at me, which is perfectly reasonable. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off there. I'm gonna say thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I've really enjoyed doing it. I'm really chuffed that I've had so many questions, and I'm really chuffed that everybody seems to have got a lot out of it. I would love it if you would let me know how you've got on, and if you would drop me a line to tell me what you're up to tell me how you're getting on, and I will be running a rerun of this at a date to be decided. And I will speak to you superheroes. I'll see my superheroes very soon. And if anyone would like to join the superheroes, then you are obviously more than welcome. I would love to have you. So I will see you guys soon.